telling you they're scared. They aren't ready to do it now. And usually that's driven by their fear. If we can teach a person to get a customer, as easy as that is today, then they will know they can do that, then they can get 2 customers. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But that's how we all learn. We all have grown by just taking one step. And when we get our people to get a customer and then teach them and help them, then they know how to get 2. After that, it's just 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. You know, that is what fills that first circle. And when we begin to get a good number in the first circle, then the people you bring in will have been taught, and you will teach them how to fill their circle. And then as they reach beyond their circle, that whole thing starts to repeat itself. And you will have a business that goes on. What makes this business so powerful, and especially when you fill the first circle, is the fundamental thing we did in the very first was the pass-through system. The ability to have the money always move to the people who were doing the work. And it bypasses those who don't. And you don't have to argue about it. You don't have to yell and scream at anybody. It just goes by them. That was an absolute gift of God and a stroke of genius. We sat on our kitchen floor with we went to the butcher market and got big rolls of his paper. And we would sit on our knees and draw imaginary lines of sponsorship up to the 200th level to see how this money would flow. Because when we started selling Nutrilite, the plan was very simple. You could go up to 25% and earn whatever that bonus those steps were. And then you became a director, what they called a key agent. You separated. And then 2% on what you made went to your sponsor. It didn't make any difference what your sponsor did. It didn't matter that you really did all the work to help that guy. But the money moved to that next sponsor. It didn't pass. It just went to him. You got 2% on what he did. That's the plan that we had when we started. But you can see how quickly we discovered the fallacy of that. And the trick always was to find out, how do we move the money to the people doing the work? And therefore this whole pass-through system was developed. You know, there are a lot of other copycats of our business. Very few of them do this. They never understood it because they just wanted to accumulate the money up to the top. That wasn't our goal. Our goal was to get the money to the people who do the work. And if we did that, and you were at the top, so to speak, what you see, there is no top. There are people who started before you, so they're top of where they started. But there is somebody who started before them who's the top of them. And I guess we get to be the top. But that's not important. In our business, there is no top. There is no person it all runs up to. It runs up to the person in the system, whoever is doing the work. Now that was a stroke of genius. Now the second thing that was important in the business was the renewal system. That each person had to renew every year. That meant we didn't discuss whether they ought to stay in or get out or try and put them out and they wanted to stay in. They determined themselves if they wanted to stay in. But once that is settled, then they only got what they did and contributed to the system anyway because of the pass-through system. And so that meant two things happened. Well, one thing. That meant we could recruit unlimited numbers of people, but since they had to renew and they had to pay every year, there was no cost in keeping them in the business. They self-liquidated. A genius thing, because if they wanted to stay in, at least the cost of leaving him in the line didn't drag anybody else down or cost anybody else. So we could add any number. We could add billions. And then you put the pass-through system in, then it doesn't make any difference how many we have, because the money keeps moving wherever it's supposed to move. Now, you have just taken those things and seen them, but I got to tell you, those are the most miraculous things you've ever seen. When you really comprehend what this business does. You know, in your normal job, you're always worrying about what so-and-so made and what does he make compared to what you do, and I work harder than he does. And I mean a regular job where the boss determines who gets what, and you always feel somehow you got underpaid. You got a plan where you get paid what you do. But more than that, you have a plan that has unlimited potential. But when you fill the first circle properly, you have something that has explosive power that will take place. And we will become known as the best marketer in the land. Today we're often laughed at as a funny little old plan. But if we would just fill the first circle, we'll become known as the best marketer anybody's ever seen. By getting everybody just to get a few, I give you a number of 10 customers. It would blow the marketing world away, and all this negative stuff you've heard about this plan doesn't work and so forth will be gone. You know, we got to beat that negative by performance. And when we have more people making than losing, we win. And then the multiplication and the power of the plan will come forth. But you are evidencing what you can do despite those problems. Can you imagine what it would start to do if we would just get that whole thing by filling the first circle working a little better? It would blow all that stuff away. There were a couple other things that were important in that process. The third thing I put down was the international marketing where everybody could sponsor everywhere. That is totally unique, you know. No other company ever did that before. If you have a car dealership in this country, you know, you can't just go start another one. You can't do anything. But to say to you, wherever we're opening for business, you can go there and start a distributorship. That adds new power to the business. And then the one I think is overwhelming to people is the fact that, there's a lot of you smart people in this room, a lot better educated, you know more math than I've ever known, was the power of the fact that you own the business. They can't get their minds around that. They think, well, so what's great about owning it? Because it is a piece of an asset that you own that has huge value. It has an ongoing value if you start to compound what it would take in investment to get that return coming all the time with whether you went to work or not. And then you ask and see how it moves on to the next generation. You see Doug and our children working with their children. And all this next generation is moving along. And it won't be long with these young children coming up, the third generation. You see, what you have is an asset that keeps spinning off better than any other investment you would ever make. And this, you don't go through the step of making the money and then paying taxes and then investing it. You just build the business and you get the asset and you get the spin. And those are some of the little things that make this business so powerful. But they all depend on the first circle. And all the doubt that people have is because the people didn't fill their first circle, so they didn't make any money, so they quit, and they all say, I know somebody who was in that. I know somebody who was in that. They didn't make any money. And you have to overcome that all the time. But if we fill the first circle, you won't have to answer that question anymore. And we will just spin this whole thing around with such a positive PR that you can't believe it. So that's my pitch for you tonight, is to fill the first circle with a little digression of historical look at it, since I don't have a chance to see most of you, and since most of you and nobody else, I'm the only guy around who lived through those things and can share them with you, because we did them and we were there. It is an awesome business. I thank you for letting me come tonight. It was thrilling. Don't get it wrong. You know, people say to me, why are you, sit down a minute, I've got a couple more words and I'll get out of here. I know you're trying to applaud, so I'll leave, but people say, why do you still go out and push these things? Why do you still do these things? I said, you don't understand, that's all. It's not about me. It's not about my making more money. It's about helping other people make money who never made money and never thought they'd have a chance and are trapped into systems where they can't become the true capitalists and free entrepreneurs they ought to be and they're capable of becoming. We are driven because we can help other people achieve. And when you teach them correctly and add the first circle element always into your presentation and keep asking, how many customers do you have? How many customers do you have? Because you know that's the foundation. We've got to have a strong foundation. And this business only got a bad name because we didn't have a good foundation. So help us, help yourself to build a stronger and stronger business that will go on into those next generations. Every time you know, a lot of people in my age, people who we brought in early on are dead. Todd's grandmother was one of those, Todd Krause. Well, they're long passed on, but she was one of the pioneers in the business. And out of that came Roger, and out of that comes Todd, and even in the company side. They came in the distributor side and the company side. But the business goes on and on. And now it goes everywhere in the world. You are doing such a wonderful job. It is an inspiration to listen to you and to hear your achievements, the speed with which you're achieving. And when we do this thing right, people will begin to achieve their goals at quicker levels, because they won't have to overcome the dropouts that they have to deal with. You'll get more people on the right path at a quicker time. And then you will begin to see people spin out at quicker times, and not only will they spin out at quicker times, they will stay there instead of having to replace them or try to kick them back up again. Your goal is to have people, when they make it, to stay there and continue to move forward. I know you understand it, but I know how long I've talked about it. I've talked about it all my Amway years, and I think now we're finally getting some people to understand it. And we need you leaders to understand it and to see all the power in it and what it will do to strengthen and secure your businesses and to increase your asset value and to increase your pass-on value in this marvelous marketing system. I'm proud of you. I salute you. And I thank you for having me here tonight.